And I'm glad that Comrade Zico is with us today. Within this context, Comrade Ronnie Casserols has this to say a couple of months ago in Canada. I'm quoting, "Certainly we South Africans can identify the pathological cause fueling the hate of Israel's political, military elite and public in general. Neither is this difficult for anyone acquainted with colonial history to understand the way in which deliberately cultivated race hate inculcates a justification for the most atrocious and inhumane actions against even defenseless civilians, women, children, the elderly amongst them. In fact, was this not the pathological racist ideology that fueled Hitler's war, lust and implementation of the Holocaust?" Unquote. In fact, if there is something to learn from Gaza 2009, it is that the world was absolutely wrong to think that Nazism was defeated in 1945. Nazism has won because it has finally managed to Nazify the consciousness of its own victims. Just think about the soldiers' t-shirts episodes, which you all are familiar with now. The courageous Israeli journalist Gideon Levy has written that Israel today looks very much like Germany in 1933. But the persistent question now is how to hold Israel accountable to international law and basic principles of human rights. The most immediate and urgent questions within this context are what the nature of international solidarity should be, which Comrade Zico talked about, and how it can best support the Palestinian struggle for self-determination. We know very well that throughout the dispossession and remaking of South Africa into a haven for racial supremacy, the international community was mobilized by the internal South African struggle and a concerted advocacy campaign by South Africans to protest against apartheid's inhuman and racist exploitation of black South Africans. Today, it is the Israeli apartheid state that is condemned for dispossessing native population, applying a policy of genocide against them. Israel has over the years been accused of being worse than apartheid state by South Africans, such as Comrade Zico sitting with us today, such as Bishop Desmond Tutu, Bil'in International, Ronnie Casserols, and even John Dougal, amongst others. These South Africans who experienced apartheid cite the use of F-16 helicopter gunships on unarmed civilians, as well as the home demolitions and arrests of families of suspected quote-unquote militants as practices that make Israeli apartheid qualitatively much worse than South African apartheid. But we also know that South African apartheid regime came under repeated pressure from the international community and multilateral organizations such as the United Nations Security Council, which passed countless resolutions against it because of its inhumane treatment of black South Africans. This gave much needed support to the oppressed, while we today in Palestine, especially in Gaza, are bereft of even this tiny comfort because the United States of America continues to use its veto to ensure that Israel escapes censure from the world body. International solidarity with the Palestinian people has over the decades played an extremely important, albeit dialectical role in enhancing the Palestinian struggle. There is an undeniable proportional relationship between the different forms of struggle in the occupied territories and the international attention and solidarity it is able to command. But now there is an urgency for an international solidarity campaign that will highlight the similarities between apartheid and Zionism, as well as the common experience of Palestinians today as a dispossessed people and black South Africans under apartheid. Like the United States and United Kingdom governments, other governments around the world were forced to isolate apartheid South Africa. The world that they would not have done so without the pressure exerted on them by their own people. And I just want to raise this question, and so luckily we have the South African comrade with us. Now, what is the flag of post-apartheid South Africa doing, flying in the skies of Tel Aviv? And what is the Israeli flag doing, flying in the skies of Pretoria? This kind of questions is the kind of questions we need to raise with our comrades in South Africa. Now, Israel needs to be isolated in exactly the same way as apartheid South Africa. Today there is a growing mass-based struggle inside Palestine, like what we have in Bil'in, as well as other forms of struggle, exactly as there was inside apartheid South Africa. Now, an intensified international solidarity movement with a common agenda can make the struggle for Palestine resonate in every country in the world, thus closing off the world to Israelis wherever they go until they open the world to Palestinians. Our goal now as civil society organizations is to lift the deadly hermetic siege imposed on Gaza, causing slow motion genocide. Marching towards the 6 gates of the Gaza prison, including the Rafah gate, has been tried and must intensify. This is what many activists, Palestinian and international, are planning to do between May 22nd and June 4th. Our BDS campaign, modeled on the South African anti-apartheid global campaign, is gaining momentum as a democratic movement based on the struggle for human rights and implementation of international law. Our struggle is not religious, nor ethnic or racial, but rather universalistic, one that guarantees the rehumanization of our people in the face of a genocidal machine run by what Moshe Dayan would have called a mad dog. Resistance, broadly speaking, is not only the ability to fight back against a militarily more powerful enemy, something the Palestinians of Gaza have the honor of doing for 22 days. But also it is an ability to creatively resist the occupation of one's own land. We need to use people power creatively and refuse to fight the battle on Israel's terms. Our strength stems